that if you're looking at that, it's a house. And photography is the same way. It's a flat surface, it's two-dimensional, but it makes your eye think that it's three-dimensional. There are a lot of Christians who live in a two-dimensional framework with God, not a three-dimensional one. A three-dimensional relationship with God is recognizing that He's the yeast, that Jesus brings the true life. Not only he says, I'm the living bread in this reading today, but he also says, I'm the living water. Now you're going to put living water and living bread together. And you're going to have everything you need to be deeper and more sustained in God's Word. What is our will? I'm going to draw this up here because, we talked about the parts. We don't experience these as separate. We only experience them as together when we're conscious. Okay, so we have the body, which is made of our corporeal self. Okay. Our soul, which is the principle of life, which when it leaves the body dies. And then our mind or spirit. To make change in your life requires a spiritual change. Think about it this way. I can go and look in the mirror in the morning, I do my daily ablations in the morning, and I'll look at myself and I'll go, this has got to change. I have got to change my diet. This is obvious. Something needs to change in the way I'm constructing my life. I can see it. I can reason to it. So I can make the sense that, I'm hypertensive. There's a good reason to change my thing and everything like that. But you see, without the will to do it, I will not make the change. And the will is a spiritual thing. So Jesus talks about doing his Father's will, the will of the Father, and that what he does is that he's in the will of God. The will of God is a spiritual thing. We cannot make changes on our own. We can make reasonable decisions based on our own understanding that it is reasonable to make a change, whether it's my diet, whether it's my work habits, whether it's my relationships. But the will to make a change comes spiritually. You can get to the door emotionally. You can get to the door rationally. But if without the Spirit, you will not make the change. Because it has to do with will. And will is like, okay, I'm not just going to say it. I'm going to do it. That means when it gets to be difficult and somebody puts a nice big piece of chocolate cake in front of me, I'm not going to eat it. Now that is a really dumb thing to do. Because it tastes good, it looks good, and it's inviting. And historically, I used it to satisfy my difficulties in life. It was compelling. But if I exercise my will spiritually, I can say no. And this is what Jesus is teaching about the bread. The bread of life means to exercise your spiritual life in congruence with God's will. We should be asking, what is God's will all the time? And you think, well, what about this, every little thing? Should I ask if it's God's will or not? Yes. Because the will of God is what is the will of the Father in Jesus Christ, doing his will. Because Jesus came what? To reveal the will of the Father. He didn't come, I didn't come to do my own will here. He says, I come to reveal the will of him who sent me. Because without Jesus, we don't know what the will of God is. The best we've got is a two-dimensional thing of the law. But Jesus wants us to live way past the law. He wants us to live in the will of God. And to experience the depth of life. And by that I mean its unique flavor It's savoriness. It's compassion. Whatever it might be for you at this particular moment in your junction in your life or me, that we are to experience it in its depth. Now, many people go by living on the surface. And there's a lot of people you're going to see at the hospital that are perfectly comfortable living on the surface. And they really don't want to talk to a chaplain very much. You know? I'm in the hospital, I'd rather not think about it very much, thank you very much. It's uncomfortable and it's painful and I want it to go away. Now the chaplain comes and the first question they ask you is, am I dying? Which is a real existential question. And underneath that is, the question is, I don't know what life's about. Okay? I don't know why I'm here. If you haven't figured out the existential question of why you are and who you are and what place you have in the universe, being in the hospital makes no sense at all. What's the purpose? So that I can leave. Okay, and hopefully feel better. Obviously, that's the purpose. But that's a superficial reality. Because I'm going to get sick again. And maybe sicker next time. And eventually, life is going to end on this planet. So as a chaplain, what do we want to do? We want to be going deeper so that we can go deeper with others. Not everyone will want to go deep with you, but somebody will. And when somebody wants to, you have to be prepared by going deeper with the Lord yourself and myself. I have to be working in my relationship with Jesus every day so I can be in relationship with you. And in case you want to go deeper in your relationship with Jesus and talk about it, or your relationship to yourself, or your relationship to your spouse, or your friends, I'm there to listen. Because that's where the will of God is found. Okay. To do the will of God is to begin by listening. And what are we going to listen for? We're going to listen in the what?
Spirit.
Spirit. We're going to listen in the Spirit. Because the will of a person can only be changed spiritually. Now, does it mean we don't listen to the corporeal needs that they have? The physical needs? I've got diabetes and I've been real sick and